I'm very happy and honored to be the first presenter in this new year, at least of the Gregorian calendar. Um, it is truly a privilege and a great boon to be able to give a Dharma presentation. It is, for me, very good for my own practice, very motivating. It really helps the stay with the practice. For me, giving these presentations is something that it is choosing the Buddha. It helps me choose the Buddha day to day in all of my activities. So I wanted to start off this investigation or exploration of choosing the Buddha with the story that introduced me to this phrase or this concept. And I've actually heard this story presented in several different ways. And they have different emphases and they include little extra things. So I'm going to tell this story in my own way as I was introduced to it. This story had to do with a young man who was traveling from his family home. His family had saved up money so that he could take the governmental examinations. And so he was traveling from his home place to the capital, which wasn't too far away, but it also wasn't close. He didn't live inside the borders of the city. And so he had to travel there to take this examination. But because he couldn't get there in one day, he had to find a place to shelter overnight. And he stopped at a monastery. And he went into the temple and asked if he could have shelter over the night. And it just so happened that the abbot was there to meet him. And the abbot, having the key eye of discernment, knew that this young man had some potential. So he told him, "Oh, yes, of course, please stay overnight." And he joined the man for medicine meal and he talked with him. And the man was put at ease. He felt very comfortable. And so after he had shared the meal, he spent the night there. The following morning, he gathered up all of his possessions and ready to go to the capital. But the abbot was there to stop him. The abbot said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't be in such a hurry to leave. You've already traveled. And so, even though you've had a good night's rest, you're still tired, and you should be well prepared when you arrive to the capital. So, why don't you just stay another day? Just stay a day and be at ease. And then on the following day, then you can go to the temple, or you can go to the capital to take the examination." So all day long, this young man got to explore the temple grounds. He bore witness to the monastics as they uh, carried out their various ritual functions. He attended the morning and the evening service. He attended some sitting meditation, and he watched the monks as they went about their lives. And this was a bit of a wonder to him because he was able to see that they were very calm and that there wasn't any sense of distress, and he himself felt greatly at ease. He felt peace. And so he spent the entire day in this way. And then he went to bed, and the following day he prepared to leave again. But once more, the abbot stopped him and said, "You know, it is a really honorable thing. It is good for your family to go into the capital to take the examination and to get a good government job. You'd be able to make money, you'd be able to increase your position and the status of your family. But it would be even a better thing if you were to stay here and continue to practice. The merit and the blessings that you would be able to cultivate and transfer to your family would be so much greater than that you would be able to transmit as a member of the the government." And so the young man, he had to think about this. He had to think about it long and hard. He considered what his life's experience had been up until then, because he had been living as a layperson in the world. And he had many experiences. Quite a few of them were filled with distress, anxiety, and suffering. But all that he had seen here at the temple was just the simplicity of life, a different possibility. And he was so moved by his experience that he determined to stay and to choose the Buddha. This phrase, choose the Buddha, it's actually written up on a piece of calligraphy in the rear of the Chan Hall at DDRC. I believe that it says an arena or a venue to choose the Buddha. And so this young man was presented with a very stark option to choose the Buddha. And he chose in a very spectacular way. For him, choosing the Buddha meant becoming a monk. Now, not all of us have the conditions to make this choice in the same way. Not all of us have spent the night at a temple and then had the abbot say, "Oh, I think that you should become a monk. Would you like to do this?" Um, I do rejoice in any who have the causes and conditions to make a choice in this manner. But even though we might not have been presented with this exact same choice, we still have an opportunity to choose the Buddha. So, what does this mean? What does choosing the Buddha mean? Well, first, I would like to look at the alternative. What does not choosing the Buddha mean? And using the example of this young man, his life up until the point where he entered the temple and was able to have these experiences, he was not choosing the Buddha. He was choosing a life of a sentient being, a life of an individual. So to choose in this manner would mean to choose um, to see the world in very concrete and discrete terms, to see the world as this real thing, and to see all of the sentient beings, all of the phenomena as populating as real and discrete things. And this is a very, it can be a very painful way to see the world. In the sutras, they talk about there being two aspects to the mind, the absolute aspect and the relative aspect, the absolute or unconditioned mind and the conditioned mind. And the way in which an ordinary sentient being chooses, they always choose this conditioned mind. They always choose the mind of relativity. And it is a mind that only exists in dependence upon phenomena. So I have a little bit of a quotation here. This is the Sutra of Detecting Good or Evil Karma and Requital. And this is talking about the mind that differentiates. And so this is the mind of the conditioned mind. And it says, the mind that differentiates is like illusions without any reality. For example, mental functions such as consciousness, sensory reception, perception, mental processing, memory, deliberation, and cognition are neither blue nor yellow, neither red nor white, nor of mixed colors. They are neither long nor short, neither square nor round, neither large nor small. One can search for the shape of the mind throughout all worlds in the 10 directions, but can never catch it under a classification. However, the mind of every sentient being, conditioned by ignorance and delusion, manifests false objects and clings to them through thinking and memory. The entire world that we experience is created in just this way. It is created by the mind, conditioned by ignorance and delusion. And so, in choosing in this manner, we are choosing in a way that is not does not perfectly correspond to the way that reality is. It is to choose in a manner that is based on a misapprehension, because ordinary sentient beings, we have the perception that everything that we see is very real, is very concrete. Um, I am real. The statuary behind me is real. Everything in the room, this computer, they all have their separateness. They all exist on their own. But what the sutras, the shastras, and the various teachings of the ancient masters show or reveal is that this is not the way that things actually are. But when we do choose in such a manner, we are choosing uh, in a way that is not seeing things as they actually are. We believe that the phenomena that we encounter actually possess characteristics. Some things are good, other things are bad. Some things are pleasant, other things are unpleasant. Some things are tall, some things are short. And that these things genuinely possess those characteristics. But this is a misapprehension. And when we do continue to choose in this manner, we are bound to uh, create actions that produce mistakes. So think about our way of being in the world. When we encounter an object, a piece of phenomena that we like, it can be a tasty treat. It can be a beautiful song, something that we enjoy. We believe, or we have the experience, the apprehension that it actually possesses those attributes. The food is good because it is delicious, but we don't see that this is just a series of labels that we are putting on it. You can imagine that every piece of phenomena that shows up in the environment, it is like this mind that differentiates. The conditioned mind continues to slap post-it notes on it. Those post-it notes can have like a plus or a minus. They have a, oh, this is a very good. And that addition means that the apprehension of what is underneath is obscured, is obstructed. But this is the way that we always are. Everything that we encounter, we have a strong reaction to. And because we have a strong reaction to it, and because we follow along with it, we are blown like the wind. We are moved and twisted and turned by every single piece of phenomena that we encounter, without exception. This is because we have the understanding or the belief that they have their own characteristics. We don't see that it is actually the mind that grants these characteristics. So, so what can we do about this? We have an option. We know because of the teachings, because of the various stones laid out by those who came before, that there is another option, that we can instead choose the Buddha. So in the same sutra, um, it says, if there are sentient beings that seek the Mahayana, and in this particular instance, Mahayana doesn't refer to the Mahayana path. It refers to the absolute or the unconditioned, which is another way of saying the Buddha. They should first know the initial fundamental karma to do or actions. To know the initial fundamental karma to do means that they need to cultivate faith and understanding by relying upon the one true reality. The one true reality refers to the true mind of sentient beings. So we have the conditioned mind, which only has to do with objects and phenomena. This is the mind of samsara. This is the mind that generates suffering. But it is only one aspect of reality. There is this other aspect, the true mind or the absolute aspect, which, with inherent purity, without hindrances, has neither birth nor death. Like space, it does not differentiate, but accommodates all, and it is equal in and universal to all, with the ultimate one appearance. And this one appearance is just mind, just not this and that, not high or low, not self and other, just mind. It is perfect everywhere in worlds in the 10 directions, non-dual and differentiation free, neither changing nor varying, neither increasing nor decreasing. For all sentient beings, voice hearers, pratyeka Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and Buddhas, the true mind is the same, which is true suchness, silent and never tainted with neither birth nor death. So, what is the Buddha? This is the Buddha, this mind that is inherently pure and is always present. But this mind is something that we have lost contact with, just as this young man, his entire life, he did not know about this mind. He did not know about this possibility. He had been conditioned, as we have all been conditioned, to interpret or be always chasing after things, always chasing after phenomena. It's always about, for him, just getting that promotion. And for us, we all have our proclivities. And so we're motivated by different things. But there are 8 things in general that all sentient beings are motivated by. And in Buddhism, they call this the 8 winds. Success and failure. We want to achieve success and we want to be distant from failure. So these are things that move us or blow us around. And these things are entirely dependent upon phenomena, getting that promotion, not being scolded. The second 2, defamation and praise. So having someone speak poorly about us or speaking well about us. We crave to be praised, but we cringe away from being scolded. Honor and abuse. But in the way that I understand it, the most fundamental of this is pain and pleasure. The things that bring about pain in us, we are repelled by. We have a strong, impulsive, negative response to. While the things that give us pleasure, we have a strong, impulsive attraction to. These are the ways in which we are blown about by phenomena. But we can only be blown about by these phenomena because we believe them to be what is the source of power. We have an incorrect relationship with the phenomena. We think that it is the objects that are what possess the authority and the strength to make us feel and to make us move. We don't understand that it is the mind itself that gives these objects power. They do not intrinsically of themselves have a plus or a minus on them. That plus or minus is granted by the mind. And it's something that we miss. We don't notice. And because we don't see this type of activity, we are moved. The our our being is blown about, and we experience turbulence and suffering, and we're always moving around chasing after phenomena. This is what it means to be an ignorant sentient being, not knowing what else to do. But as practitioners, we know that we have a different option. We can instead choose the Buddha. And to choose the Buddha means to have the understanding that underneath all of these appearances, the appearance of phenomena, the appearance of our reaction and response to phenomena, there is this mind that is intrinsically pure, that in of itself, it does not possess any characteristics. It does not possess any phenomena. It is empty. It is like the a mirror that on its surface contains many different reflections. But you can go looking into the mirror, but you can't find any of the images there. You can, scrape at it, you can try to dig at it with a spoon, but you won't be able to find anything. All of those are just unreal reflections. Now, this isn't to say that those things don't appear at all, because the reflections do, but we can understand their nature. And in understanding their nature, we're no longer blown about. Our choices are no longer confined by our relationship to objects. Because when we have this relationship with the conditioned mind, that is who we are. I am that conditioning because I'm having these feelings and I'm having these responses, and that's just the way I am. When we have this level of understanding and this level of relating, all activities of body, speech, and mind will be controlled by that conditioning. And every time there is a following along with the strong, impulsive reactions or responses to the contact with phenomena, those tendencies become stronger. The ego or the self presents itself as being even beefier the next time it shows up. If in responding with impulsive anger to something that is unpleasant to us, the next time we experience a similar object, we will become even more angry. That response will be even stronger and faster. And all other avenues of choice become closed off one by one because that's the way that we relate to phenomena. We believe things really are that way. This distorts the perception of reality in a lot of different ways. I was telling some of my students earlier this morning that there are things in the environment that I hardly pay attention to anymore, that don't really register for me at all. So back, 10 years ago, or even 6 or 7 years ago, I was quite the foodie and I loved to eat out. I would know all of the restaurants where I lived because that was something that was of great interest to me. Food had a really big plus. And so whenever I would drive around my environment, I would notice all of those things. I would really pay attention. I could tell you where every single Chipotle was in a 5 mile radius around my house because Chipotle had a big plus. I loved that experience of getting Chipotle and eating there. I could tell you where all the good food was. Nowadays, because my habitual tendencies have changed, I don't notice restaurants. maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I hopped on the diet, the Shurangama Sutra diet. No garlic, onions, shallots, leeks, or chives, which is a pretty difficult thing to do, especially when you're used to going out and being able to eat at various places. But this is a very difficult diet to eat out. And so over time, because I don't eat out anymore, the importance of restaurants and places has become smaller and smaller and smaller. And so in my mental landscape, I hardly see restaurants at all. I had a client ask me recently, she was getting a massage, and she's told me, "Hey, I'm looking to eat somewhere good after this massage. Where can you recommend?" And it's like, I don't even have any idea what the restaurants are around me anymore because I have no relatability to them. And I'm not describing this as it being a good thing. This really isn't, because it is a warping of reality. The restaurants are still equally present before and after my dietary change, but my attachment to them has changed. And so my experience of this reality is different. Reality has not actually changed. It's the same place that it was before, but the activities of myself has changed it. This happens all the time in sometimes very gross or coarse ways, and other times in very, very subtle ways. But when there is not a connection with it, when there is a lack of awareness regarding this type of activity, our perceptions of reality are warped. The reality that we identify with is not actually the reality that is there, because the things that we have this strong impulsive reactivity are distorted. They're blown up. So whether we really enjoy them or we really dislike them, they show up larger than life. The places in my surrounding that I do have a strong connection with, it's like there are fireworks going off, or it's like a hotel at Las Vegas. There's just beaming lights because they take up so much real estate in my way of relating to things. But that which, doesn't really interest me at all, I have a very neutral feeling towards, they shrink and they shrink and they shrink. This is the way that sentient beings relate to things. And it is because that sentient beings who have chosen to relate to things as discrete things, possessing attributes of their own, that they misapprehend reality. And in misapprehending what is really going on, all sorts of unfortunate actions are taken. That which should not be ignored is ignored. That which should not be done can easily be done. We can talk ourselves into doing the things that we shouldn't do and not doing the things that we should do pretty easily because of the way that we relate to things, because of our conditioning. That's the way that our sense of self relates to the world. It relates via this conditioned mind. But there is another option. There is the option to choose the Buddha, to choose the path of practice. Now, I want to continue reading just a little bit more from this sutra. So, those who want to choose differently, those who want to develop their belief in and understanding of the one true reality, should learn the approach of two observations. So if you want to choose the Buddha, this might not be an easy or a natural thing to do because the only set of choices that we have made may have been ones that are seated within the conditioned mind. But what are these two observations? One is the observations that all dharmas are only mind and consciousness, and the other is the insight into true suchness. So we have to, as some of the ancients, or Gilbert puts it, turn the mind's eye inwards. And this isn't just like looking within one's consciousness and seeing all of the shadowy objects of cognition. Turning the mind's eye inward is also turning it out in all directions to see that in all directions, it's just mind and consciousness. So it is mind in that um, that is the true nature, that is the true mind that is inherently pure. Consciousness is this mind that is dependent upon objects. It is the conditioned mind. So one who wants to learn to know one's mind and consciousness should observe anywhere and at any time that all dharmas are mind, as one does karma with one's body, voice, and mind. So even though there is this endless activity of body, speech, and mind, we're going to have thoughts, we're going to speak words, we're going to do various things with the body. Everything that all dharmas are mind. One should be aware of all the objects that one's mind dwells on. One should not allow one's mind to pursue objects blindly without being aware. We have to be aware. We have to be aware of the things that we are fixated on, whether in a positive or a negative manner, that are warping the perception of reality, that are either blowing them up or are shrinking them down. It's like instead of a mirror where everything, like a good mirror, reflects everything equally, so that if you stand in front of it, you look as you are. But when there are all of these distortions, when there's this incorrect way of relating, when we don't understand that our habitual tendencies are blowing up or shrinking down the value of things. That is like looking into a funhouse mirror. And the funhouse mirror warps and distorts. It can make you look very skinny, even if you're very large, and it can make you look very large, even when you're very skinny. It keeps the mind from apprehending things the way that they are. Thought after thought. One should follow each thought and observe its contents, enabling one's mind to know that it is producing perceptions and thoughts, not the objects producing thoughts or differentiations. It is our attachment or the mind's attachment to things that produces the various perceptions of characteristics that empowers the objects. The objects themselves do not possess any power. They are like illusions or reflections, but it is in relating to them in an incorrect way that they are mistakenly invested or imbued with authority or characteristics that they do not actually possess. One's mind produces innumerable perceptions, such as long or short, good or evil, right or wrong, gain or loss, advantage or disadvantage, existence or non-existence, while objects have no differentiating perceptions. It is the mind that creates all of these things. Those things do not create anything. They themselves are creations of the mind. There's an even subtler level to this because we may think that, oh, well, I myself imbues those things with those characteristics. But the self, too, is just another phenomena. It's just another object. It's just another thought that is itself created by the mind. It's like a smoke screen, or The Wizard of Oz, if you've ever seen that movie. The Wizard of Oz is behind the curtain, and he's operating, all of these gears, and creating this big light show. And I am the Wizard of Oz, showing up real big and strong, projected on a screen. But really, it's just a small man who's making those things. Um, our self is like that man on the curtain, that the big projection. I am doing this. I am creating, but it itself is just a projection too. Since objects never have any perception, they are free from self-images, such as long or short, good or evil, existence or non-existence. In this way, one should observe that all dharmas are produced by one's mind. Apart from one's mind, there is not a single dharma that can perceive distinctions for itself. This is to return the the power and authority to its proper place. It does not belong to phenomena. It does not belong to objects. It does not belong to self. It just belongs to mind. And in seeing in this way, this is choosing the Buddha. Never giving up, one should stay with and note one's mind and know that there are only thoughts and imaginations, no real objects. The boundaries of objects is another thing that is imputed, another thing that is projected or created by the mind. If you imagine that for every object, even if you're able to strip away the pluses and the minuses, there's still a label that says, right here, statue, tapestry, Ian. All of those are just created by the mind. They have no reality beyond that. So this is called training in the observation that all dharmas are only mind and consciousness. However, this is not called the observation that all dharmas are mind and consciousness when one's mind is a blank, not knowing what it is thinking and saying there are objects outside itself. So it's possible that a very determined practitioner can blank the mind, can temporarily just make it so nothing appears. But what the sutra is saying is that this is not a very good practice. This is not one that is going to be productive. It's not one that is going to produce any insight, and there won't be any genuine progress. One who stays with and notes one mind should know one's greed, anger, and delusion, as well as wrong views. You should know what you're greedy for. You should know what it is that makes you angry. And you should know that it is the mind that 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 generates these feelings. It is not the objects. It's very easy to be angry at things, and even easier to be angry at other people. It is far more difficult to understand that those feelings arise from one's own mind or just mind. And being able to penetrate these thoughts and feelings with awareness, one is less controlled by them. One's responses are less bound by anger and greed, and instead the possibility of responding with wisdom begins to creep in. When one is sitting, one should follow the objects of one's mind and know that, thought after thought, only the mind rises and falls. Nothing else, just mind. So that is the observation that one's mind and that all dharmas are only mind and consciousness. Its section regarding insight into true suchness is a lot briefer because it is directing back to that absolute aspect of mind, which is which you honestly can't say anything about because it does not possess any characteristics. But it does have a little bit to say. One who wants to develop insight into true suchness should ponder, or I would say, should contemplate that one's mind in its true nature has neither birth nor death, nor does it abide in perception through faculties such as seeing, hearing, and knowing. One should ignore the thoughts of differentiations. So these are the two practices that the Sutra of Detecting Good or Evil, Karma, and Requital sets forth in order to help us choose the Buddha. Because choosing the Buddha is it is liberating, positively liberating. So this, I have another little bit of reading, and this.
Hey Ian, did you I think you were muted for like about 15 seconds?
Oh my! Oh, thank you for letting me know. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I
no
guess
worries.
when I put the book down, I must have hit the button.
Yeah, no worries.
So I've got another little reading from Master Hongren's on the treatise on the essentials of cultivating the mind, where he describes a meditation practice. So the question is, uh, well, actually, it's a very long question, so I'll just describe the meditation. So this is how one begins to apply choosing the Buddha in meditation. So Master Hongren says, gently quiet your mind. I will teach you how to do this once again. Make your body and mind pure and peaceful without any discriminative thinking at all. So just not abiding in any of those thoughts of this or that, just sitting simply and calmly. Sit properly with the body erect. Regulate the breath and concentrate the mind so it is not within you, not outside of you, and not in any intermediate location. So we're not narrowing the focus of our awareness. We're instead allowing awareness to naturally open up. We're not just confining it to the room. We're not confining it to our bodies. We're not confining it to just one spot. Earlier, for beginners, Master Hongren did recommend a different practice, one for just building concentration. But this practice is for the next level, for a more subtle choosing of the Buddha. Do this carefully and naturally. So we're not trying to force the breath to be this or that. We're just allowing the breath to come natural. We're allowing the awareness to naturally open up, not being forceful, not twisting or warping or distorting. View your own consciousness tranquilly and attentively so that you can see how it is always moving, like flowing water or a glittering mirage. So just watch the flow of consciousness. Watch how things come and go, thoughts, feelings, perceptions, physical sensations, always coming and going, always moving like flowing water or a glittering mirage or like the images on the mirror. After you have perceived this consciousness, simply continue to view it gently and naturally, without the consciousness assuming any fixed position inside or outside of yourself. This consciousness that mind is being aware of is the discriminating consciousness. Anything having to do with objects or phenomena, anything that is moving, just let it be. Don't fool around with it. Don't follow it. If a particularly tasty thought or a particularly um, painful sensation arises, don't narrow the field of awareness. Just continue to allow it to be expanded and allow the phenomena to flow, to just come and go naturally. Do this tranquilly and attentively until its fluctuations dissolve into peaceful stability. When one does not continue to impulsively respond or continue to interact with the things that arise, they exert less and less of a pull. They do not move the mind. They do not disturb in the way that they once did. It becomes like the water just becomes smoother and smoother. This flowing consciousness will disappear like a gust of wind. When this flowing consciousness disappears, all one's illusions will disappear along with it, even the extremely subtle illusions of bodhisattvas of the 10th stage. Any conceptual imputations, any conceptual discriminations, that's what it's talking about here. Those things vanish. And what remains? Reality just as it is. Or as Master Hong Ren puts it, when this consciousness and false cognition of the body have disappeared, one's mind becomes peacefully stable, simple, and pure. I cannot describe it any further. This mind of discrimination, this mind that is entirely based on its relating to the illusionary phenomena, it subsumes, it returns back into the absolute or the true mind, the mind that is not dependent upon objects. It is because of the the sense of self that is always being moved and blown about that this original mind, this intrinsically pure mind, is obscured, it's covered. Just as when one looks at the mirror, one doesn't really see the stillness of the mirror. One only sees the reflections that appear, but the stillness is present all throughout. But because there is such a strong connection and identification with this mind that is dependent upon phenomena, there is an alienation from that stillness, an alienation from the true mind. But that mind is always present. That mind is always there. So Master Hongren continues. Any person who can avoid losing sight of this mind during all their actions and in the face of the five desires, the five desires being those that are relative to form, sound, smell, taste, and touch, all the objects that we would have a strong impulsive reactivity. So any person who can avoid losing sight of this mind, this intrinsically pure mind, during all their actions in the face of the five desires and the eight winds, which we already discussed, has established their pure practice, done that which must be done, and will never again be born into the realm of birth and death. This is the result of choosing the Buddha. Choosing the Buddha is just in this way. So this is how we apply it in meditation. Once we have established a foundation of concentration through being able to stick with the method, um, one allows the awareness to open up. For example, in my own practice, my primary concentration method is hearing. I listen to the sound of silence. And when I first start sitting or when I first go onto a retreat, I have to lean into that real hard because this mind of birth and death, this mind of conditionality or that is dependent upon objects is fairly active. And so I lean into this my concentration method. But as I continue to apply the methodology, that impulsive reactivity begins to subside. The thoughts and the sensations that arise within the body are less um, tantalizing. I can view them, just allow them to be there, know that they come and go. Oh, yeah, I got a pain in my leg. It's a pain, but it's temporary. This sitting isn't going to last forever, and it's not going to kill me. Or the thoughts like, oh, all those things that I want or all those things that I don't want, they're just thoughts. That's all that they are. And when I stop interacting with them by relying on the method, they become weaker and weaker. And after a time, it is natural that instead of being so focused on maintaining the method, allow the awareness to expand and begin to adopt that same way of relating to all phenomena that arise in the environment. Sound is still there. I'm not trying to hold on to it so strongly, though. But when I do get caught up and taken away as a practitioner, I am, I return to the sound until it's stable enough to let go. And then just watch with awareness this stream of consciousness flow and flow and flow, things arising in mind and departing from mind. And if you can do this, you will have an experience. You will have a realization. You will get closer to this true mind. It will reveal itself to you, but only in your absence, because you or your ego, you are just the mental activity that is interacting with the appearances of things. And by relying on the method, the self gets weaker and weaker and weaker. The clouds begin to part, and these little beams of sunlight come through. Those beams of sunlight that are like the intrinsically pure mind, and a genuine, real experience can be had. And the faith that comes about from that is truly great. So this is how we can apply choosing the Buddha in meditation. How do we apply it in our day-to-day lives? How do we choose the Buddha? Well, there are many, many ways, some of which we've even covered. From the Sutra of Detecting Good or Evil Karma and Requital, it talked about being aware of the thoughts that you have, being aware of the thoughts that you dwell on. What are the things that are sticky for you? We all have our stuff. Gilbert, he talks about the donut, the proverbial donut, because everyone has something that they stick to. For me, I like little miniatures. I like to buy the miniatures and put them together and paint them and play games with them. And so those are some of the things that stick around in my mind. Everybody has something. Some of them are more harmful than others, but be aware of the things that show up in your mind, and also be aware that these objects in of themselves do not possess any power or authority. The power and authority that we as sentient beings experience by them, by the push or the pull of them, is entirely granted by the mind. Being clear about this, knowing that these things, their appearance and their ability to push and pull is created by the mind, this is choosing the Buddha. There is an instruction that Master Sheng Yen gave Gilbert, something that Gilbert, he says, "Oh, I'm very humbled by this instruction, and likewise, I am humbled by it." But it's something that if you can remember, you can bring up to the surface of your mind and act accordingly, it will truly change your way of relating to things, and it will make you more free of phenomena, free in such a manner as to be able to make different choices, not be controlled. And that instruction is take only what you need. So in my life, I notice that, I take more than what I need all the time. If I pan down, people who know me from outside, who haven't seen me in a couple of months, I've been eating a lot of bread. I've been taking more bread than what I need. And in many ways, I take more than what I need. But when that thought creeps up, when it crests the blanket of my ignorant way of relating to things, it reminds me that I have a choice. No, I don't really need that thing. And I don't have to make regrettable choices. Because let me tell you, I'm a little older now, and it's a lot harder to take off excess body baggage than it used to. So I will do my best to remember to only take what I need when it comes time to eat, to not be so blown about by the pleasure of the wonderful sourdough bread I have learned to make. We just have to see that anything that moves, anything that comes into being, persists, and passes away is a projection of the self or a projection of the conditioned mind. Just be clear about that. And that clarity in of itself is the Buddha. So choosing to be aware is choosing the Buddha. This is how I apply that practice instruction. But in any of the sutras, in any of the treatises, any of the exhortations of the masters, all of that is just instruction on how to choose the Buddha. There are innumerable Dharma doors. Sometimes they say 84,000. And to apply any one of them means to choose the Buddha. But this approach, which is based on right view, is what many masters have called the shortcut. The shortcut is just to see that all phenomena are created by the mind. Anything that moves is phenomena. And in returning mind to mind, the conditions for realization are put into motion. So I wish you all a good practice. I wish that you all can give rise to the the mind that is set upon realization. Amitofo.